Hey, I want to do something a little bit different today. I want to see if we can get into the mind of a narcissist so that we can get a pretty solid idea of their guiding philosophy of life. And the way I'm going to do it today is we're going to conduct an interview with a narcissist. Now, actually, I'm going to be the interviewer, but I'm also going to play the role of the interviewee. I'm going to play the role of the narcissist. And I'm going to see if I can just pull out of that person some good answers that will help us understand why they think the way they do and what some of the guiding principles are that they build upon. So let's get started with our interview, will you? Now, I'm speaking to the narcissist, and I'm going to ask, how important would you say it is for a person to have positive self-esteem? Well, as the narcissist, my response is, I like the idea of positive self-esteem. In fact, I need a whole lot of esteeming. Actually, what I prefer is I want to be seen in a very godlike way. I want to have a godlike control over other people because you see, when I am the final authority and people see me as being extremely special, then I get to esteem myself. And I just feel really great when I can finally convince people that they just need to treat me like the very special person I am. So that was a great opening question. Okay, next question. So what's the best way to build self-esteem? Well, I'm glad you've asked. Actually, I've learned that the best way to build self-esteem is to destroy yours. You see, when people are in my presence and they have a deflated ego, then that makes me look strong. And so I like to find all sorts of flaws and weaknesses, and I don't have any trouble in finding those, by the way, in other people because it always gives the appearance that I'm on top. And let's keep in mind that my self-esteem means that I'm on top. And so I get to keep up my facade that I'm a self-assured person when I can find that you're wrong and you just don't do life. I think that's a really good way for us to go. Okay. Well, then what would you say is the best way to connect successfully with other people? That's an excellent question. Connection is very important. I like to connect with people, and the way that I do it is I tell them what to do. You see, I'll say things like, that's not the way you're supposed to do it, or where did you get that idea? Because then I get to explain to them why they need to listen to me. So that's a good connection. And so when I'm able to explain to people that they don't know what they're talking about and that I really know how to handle things properly, then they'll have to keep coming back to me so that I can keep them on the right path. And then people will respect me more and connect more with me because they'll understand how brilliant I am. So that's a really great strategy for me to use. And it works like a charm. People really do like knowing how smart I am. And I certainly don't mind letting them know that. Okay, well, how do you feel about being vulnerable then as you do connect with people? Well, being vulnerable is for losers. I don't need to be vulnerable. It's essential that people not see my humanity. Now, if anyone thinks that they're going to expose a flaw of mine, I just make sure that they know instead that the flaw is that they just have a pathetic life. They don't see things correctly. And so vulnerability means that I let people know how they're weak and how they need someone who's going to keep them on the path. And so I like to manage vulnerability by letting folks know you need to do things the way I tell you to do, and then you wouldn't be in so much trouble so much of the time. I think they need to understand that. Okay, well, let's go to another question. How necessary would you say it is to demonstrate love as you engage with other people? Well, people say that love is of supreme importance, but not me. You know what's most important? Power. Power is of supreme importance. I can give the impression at times towards people and make them think that I actually love them. But even then, I'm doing so in such a way that keeps me in the power position. So I love by showing how strong I am. And then people feel really great when they're around me, and they feel real secure because they know they're in the presence of someone who has it all figured out. Well, describe for me then how important it is for you to coordinate with people and to have empathy. Well, actually, that's a very good question that you ask. Coordination is extremely important. People need to coordinate with me. And so when we talk about empathy, they need to see things from my perspective. So I've got to make sure that people coordinate with my ideas by letting them know where they go wrong. You see, the more I can explain to them where they're wrong and they need a better and more enlightened way of doing things, then we have coordination. And when they don't empathize with me and when they don't coordinate with me, well, I have all sorts of tactics that I like to use that will kind of keep them in line, because as you just suggested through that question, coordination is very important. They need to stay tight with me, and I will make sure that happens, or else they're going to get cut off. Well, okay. Now, there actually will be moments, I'm assuming, when people may disappoint you. So what would you say is the best way to respond when people disappoint you? Well, that's a good question. When people disappoint me, they need to be shamed. They need to understand that there are certain ways that life is supposed to live, and they're just not doing it right. And so if I can shame them strongly enough into quit doing whatever it is that they're doing that's a disappointment, then I've helped them out. And I really like being a helpful person. And by the way, while we're on the topic, nobody gets to shame me because, well, that's just not appropriate. I don't think I'm doing them any kind of favor by letting them speak words of shame to me. And so if they do try to shame me, I'm just going to rage. I'll accuse. I can ignore them. I can let them know all the different things that they've done wrong in their life. And then they're going to understand that that disappointments are taken care of when they can just learn how to conform. If people could just learn the wonderful art of conformity, then we wouldn't have so many disappointments in this world. Okay? Well, but when you make mistakes, don't you think it's just best to come clean? Well, first, you make the assumption that I make mistakes. And basically, I don't make mistakes. I'm unique. And I have such an unusual take on the world. Now, if others think that I've blundered, or if others think that maybe I have miscalculated, well, I know for a fact that it has to be someone else's fault. Usually it's that person in front of me. It's their fault. And so then we have to get to the bottom of it and find out who we're going to be able to blame for that, because it can't be me. So for you to ask me about mistakes, that's just kind of a poor question, because it's just not going to happen, at least not when you hang out with me. Well, okay. So what would you say is the best advice that you could give someone who is trying to figure out how to succeed in life? Well, there's one very simple answer to that question, and that is be like me, think like me, look like me, treat people as I do, have the same priorities as I have, be the best, like me, and you're going to be a success. Okay, we're done. Can you imagine being in an interview with someone who thinks like that? Now, that's pretty absurd, and obviously I'm using some sarcasm and satire there. I want you to understand, through my use of this little interview kind of thing that I just did, I want you to understand there really are some people out there that think like that. Now, maybe not quite as brashly as I was making it out to be, although there are some folks that are quite that way. But narcissists are very full of their own self-importance. And if you come to them and say, well, there's certain things that I'm just kind of wondering about regarding you, and you're hoping that you're going to get a normal, healthy kind of response, you're going to be sorely disappointed because they don't think like you and me. And in fact, in many ways, and I don't say this lightly, in many ways they can be delusional. So let's just say this as we close. Instead of butting heads with that narcissist, instead of asking all of these questions that you might want to ask about how they could do things differently and why they think the way they do, unhook. And just know that you're going to think differently and they're going to think differently. And there's probably not going to be a whole lot of common ground between the two of you, which means that that person is not going to be somebody that you're going to have a very high level of interplay with. And just simply be your separate self. And when you get to the point of trying to make sense of who they are, just understand sometimes you're just going to be left scratching your head. Now, I do hope that you gain some benefit from videos such as this. And I don't always do the interview kind of thing, but I hope it stimulates some thinking in you. Just know that beneath the video is a subscribe button. If you'd like to have awareness of more videos as they come along, hit that subscribe button and we'll keep you apprised. Also know that beneath the video we have some links to some of my books, some online workshops, and then if you need online counseling, we have a link there so that you can get some of the help in the counseling department that you would need. I want things to go well for you. Just know that I know that most of you are here because you're trying to work this out in a real clean and positive way, and I'm pleased that you bring me along on your journey with you. That being said, I will see you next time.